Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I'm glad you're here. It's a beautiful day here in Northern Illinois. And and it's Tuesday. So there you go. I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body mind expert. I'm a shiatsu massage therapist and I help women with narcissistic troubles. And I've been doing this for quite a while. I've been doing this for 12 years and I come at things from a healer's perspective. I've been involved with healing of myself and of helping other women heal for a pretty long time. It's what I'm meant to do. And so, what I've been helping women with for a while is healing from narcissism. And one of the questions that comes up is about borderline personality and narcissism. So everybody's got a tendency for, being narcissistic in some way. It's a spectrum, just like with everything. And sometimes we're only narcissistic when it has to do with sharing chocolate with, my husband. I can be very, very controlling and self-absorbed about that. And it can go all the way to where no one has any value at all, where everyone is fair game and there's a lack of empathy, and that's actually a chemical thing to go that far. They did this crazy research. I know it's kind of a dark thing this early in the morning, but they did research on people who were mass murderers, people who had those violent tendencies. And a big piece of that was when they were in their mother's womb during their development, they were exposed to a high level of emotions. And that high level of emotions flooded their system and actually made it very difficult for them to feel empathy, to feel caring for other people. There's an overload, and in fact, for them to feel happy or enjoy themselves, and so they need a high, crazy, ridiculous sort of level of drama in order to feel, in order to feel happy. That would be, the furthest side of narcissism, someone who is violent enough um, that no one else matters. Think about terrorism. Think about Jeffrey Dahmer. Those sorts of things. They're incapable of feeling for other people. Now, in between that, for me not wanting to share my chocolate to creating devastating wounding and pain purposely, to the community, there's a lot of people. And maybe you ended up in a relationship with one. Maybe they ended up being your mother. Maybe they ended up being your spouse. Maybe you dated them for a while. And there are certain qualities. Now, so what does this have to do with borderline personality disorder? Borderline personality disorder is a disorder that's twofold. One, it's typically based on an underlying chemical, physical sorts of things. I found that ADD and ADHD are quite common as a foundation of narcissism and of borderline personality disorder. So there's an underlying physical thing going on, and if you're in a relationship with someone, um, especially a spouse or a romantic partner, ADD or ADHD really is a foundation for many of them. But what comes on top of that then is PTSD, where there was some sort of trauma, and that trauma caused them to go into a constricted sort of place. So their heart isn't actually open, it's in a constant or frequent state of fight or flight. And that's actually the internal world that many borderline personality and narcissists are living with, is this underlying physical disorder overlaid with this traumatic response. So how do they look so charming and amazing and wonderful? Typically because they've learned how to live with that all their life, and they've learned how to get along, and they've learned how to be with people, and they've learned how to have relationships, superficial relationships. But underneath that is this constant other personality that's telling them that you have to protect yourself at all costs, that telling them that they aren't any good, that they have no value, that their life is useless and purposeless. And so because of that, and they have all of these feelings that are just sort of hanging around, um, when they're able to find someone who lets them treat them that way, or that they feel is deserving of being treated in that way, or someone who doesn't stop them from treating them that way, then that's how a victim is born. So they can be charming and wonderful to everybody else because they've really learned how to deal with that. But underneath, there's this darkness, there's this pain, there's this self-disgust in many ways. And so them trying to sort out those reactions and their tendencies can be, pretty devastating for everybody around them. So narcissists clinically are further to let's say the right. They're further to the more self-absorbed, to the lack of empathy. That's the key, I think, that differentiates someone who is really a danger and everybody else, is this lack of empathy. Because many borderline personality disorder people, they've been struggling with this sort of thing for a very long time. They've been struggling with it probably since the day they were born, even before they were born, of this hyperactivity, of this inability to control their inner world, of pain, or of their bodies betraying themselves over and over. And so over those years, their focus has been to themselves, strictly and totally to themselves. And it doesn't mean that they don't have the ability to care, and it doesn't mean they don't have the even some skills to care, but it's that their inner world completely dominates their outer world. So if you're in a relationship with someone who's a borderline personality disorder, there is, the idea that underneath all of the coping mechanisms, they are people who really want to live happy lives. They're people who want to have good relationships. They're not people who want to be alone. Typically, someone who deals with a high level of narcissism because of borderline personality disorder or because of PTSD, what happens is they do end up alone because they push everybody away because they've got no ability to create lasting, meaningful relationships. And so they're the people that, as time goes by, you know, their world tends to get worse and worse because people find out, that they struggle with this. They're not able to keep up their identity to the world as much anymore, and their life starts to suffer. So many people with borderline personality disorder, they want to have a better life, they want to be happy, they want to feel connected, but they're so distressed inside of themselves. They're so conflicted inside of themselves. They've got so many different coping skills on top of that desire that they behave in a very, very narcissistic way. However, there are flags that you can, when you're looking at relationships, when you're attracted to somebody, when you fall in love with somebody, when you want somebody in your life, you have to look at them with a bit of a discerning eye. You have to decide from the beginning, okay, what is this person's baggage? What are their problems? And is this something that I want to, walk through with? Perhaps on the front end, you had a narcissist in your life, which was pretty horrible. And they had physical abuse. They, were violent. They were really scary and dangerous. You might not want to be involved with that. However, other people who struggle, who have a higher level of narcissism, they, underneath it all, they want to have a better life. And so when you look at them and say, you know what, I think maybe we can do this. You want to grow, I want to help you grow. And you're able to start having conversations, and you're able to start breaking down those walls, and you're able to help them start to come out of their protective shells and communicate, develop connections, and self-reflect. There's this big thing about how narcissists are the most evil people in the world, and we should discard them and lock them up in a prison in hell somewhere. That's sadly a lot of the overriding opinion. And that probably feels very, very true when someone is further down the narcissistic scale, and really they've lost their ability, if they ever had it, for empathy. but many people aren't to that level of dysfunction, to that level of mental health. And so, if it's someone that you care about, if it's someone that you understand, if it's someone that you are looking and you think it's possible to have a better relationship with them, then you can create relationships with people with borderline personality disorder. You can help them heal. You can help them get what they need in order to heal. But they have to want to too. They have to start thinking, you know what, I need to get into counseling to help this. You know what, I need to learn better emotional management techniques. I need to learn better communication skills. I need to, put my ego aside for a while. People who have struggled with borderline personality disorder, it's not that they're evil people. It's that they really don't know how to manage what's going on. And so they fall back into the habits of abuse and anger and gaslighting and manipulation and bullying, and emotional abuse. They'll fall back into those habits, but that doesn't mean that's where they need to stay. So if you're with someone that, like your mother, or like a child, or like a spouse that has given you a lot in your life, and you're not ready to go, consider that they may have borderline personality disorder and start researching that. Start understanding how they work. Borderline personality disorder, they have struggle focusing. They need things to be very concrete. They need more stimulation to their brain, caffeine, something like that, to make their brain work a little bit more efficiently and stay out of fight or flight. They need security and safety. You have to look at them as someone who is struggling. And if you're in a strong position, if you're no longer in the victim position, then you can hold good boundaries. Helping a borderline personality disorder isn't about being lovey-dovey and being all ooey gooey. That can be an important part of it for self-esteem and feeling good about yourself. But the other part is helping people recognize what they do to sabotage their relationships and to communicate it in a clear way so that they can understand. And sometimes that clear way is loud, and sometimes it's soft, and sometimes it's very firm boundaries, and sometimes it's silent. It's a variety of ways that you're communicating. And if someone is worth it to you, if someone has enough value to you, and you see that they've got, that they've got this inside of them, then yes, helping create a safe space for them to grow in those areas can be a beautiful, beautiful thing to do. Not all relationships are, you're a narcissist, I'm out of here. You need to, leave me alone for forever. Sometimes they're bad coping skills and misunderstandings and emotional overreaction and PTSD. There's like 6 or 7 things going on. And when you can help people rewind those, if you can help be a safe space, but only if you're willing, only if it's worth it to you, then someone who struggles with borderline personality disorder, they don't have to struggle as much. And they're able to move forward, and they're able to help create a better relationship. So you have to evaluate on your spectrum. You have to say, okay, do you completely lack empathy in all things and this is not a safe environment, or are you too far along and it's not a good environment for me? I have too many things that I need to work on and heal. But if you've been doing your work, then it's not about feeling sorry for somebody. It's about holding very strong boundaries. It's about caring enough about them that you don't let them use their coping skills in order to victimize you. You don't let yourself be a victim anymore. I had a really good mentor who said to me, when I was going through my training many years ago for body work, I was getting some work done by another student, and I felt very uncomfortable with this student, so I stopped it. And then I went to the head of the school. I went to my mentor and I said, hey, I felt really uncomfortable. I stopped this. What's your thoughts on this? And she says, when you allow yourself to be victimized, you turn someone else into a victimizer. So a lot of people are bullies and victimizers out there, a lot of them, and they have high narcissistic tendencies. However, when we behave in a victim way, when we don't allow ourselves to step into our power and our right to self-respect and our right to live a happy life and our right to be treated the way that you want to be treated. When you don't act like a victim, then a number of victimizers stop behaving like that. They start to go up to a higher level of relationship. Instead of you going down, instead of you sinking to that level, instead you hold a higher level. This is what we're going to be doing. This is how you need to treat me if you want to be with me. This is what I expect if you want to be with me. You hold a higher bar. And if somebody wants to have a relationship, they will start to raise up to that higher bar. It's a really great test. In fact, if you want a test of whether someone might be worth it to have in your life or not, early on, set some boundaries, some small boundaries, some easy boundaries, and someone who doesn't respect those is someone that you really don't want in your life because they're going to consistently not respect those. Now, borderline personality, what they tend to do is they react at first, but if they've done any of their work, if they want any sort of a healthy, happy relationship somewhere down the line, then they self reflect. They come back with a different point of view. They come back with different behavior. Many people get hijacked because they think, I told them what I needed and they completely dismissed me. They completely minimized me. They completely, neglected what I was telling them. You know what? That's actually true for a lot of people because a lot of people don't know how to respond in many situations. But after they react, after they respond, and when someone has ADD or ADHD, and it's turned into borderline personality disorder, what happens is they're super reactionary. They're super trigger happy. They're walking on eggshells with themselves too. And so at first, they will completely, protect and react and blame and gaslight and manipulate. They will do all of those things. However, if they have the ability to then, once they've cooled down, to self reflect, see themselves in it. Sometimes this can take a little bit longer. Sometimes you have to hold your boundaries pretty firm. Be like, no, I'm not allowing you to treat me this way. What happens is their brain starts to change. They start to make different associations. This is not an overnight sort of thing. This is someone that you say, you know what, I care enough about you. You mean enough about, you mean enough to me that I'm going to invest this time and see if we can grow, if we can grow as people, if we can grow as a relationship. That's what you want to be looking at. And if someone, even at first, if at first they're scary or manipulative or abusive, but they have the ability to dig a little bit deeper into what their part of it was, then you might have something to go on. You might need to be the first one that takes that step. You might need to be the one that says here and no more, that says, nope, I'm willing to be the one to walk away. I'm willing to be the one that says, this is unacceptable. So, if you want to help somebody that you love that struggles with a mental health disorder, that isn't all the way to the side of no empathy ever, and no desire to self reflect, no ability to self reflect, if someone's that far down the spectrum, you do need to walk away. But if someone has shown you that they have some of these abilities, then you have to look at yourself and you have to say, is this worth it to me? Is the work and the energy and the time and the effort, is it worth it to me? Are they worth it to me? Do they have enough within them? Are they worth it enough to themselves? You have to look at the relationship very cleanly and clearly and say, is this a mental health disorder that we can work with? Can you learn meditation techniques? Can you learn how to manage this stuff? Can you learn how to dial down your physical symptoms? Because if you can, then someone who struggles with mental health can be one of the best relationships you've ever had. And not in the, oh, this is another life lesson sort of thing, but in a way that they have an understanding of the human psyche that most of us don't, because they've lived in that darkness. They've lived in that overreactionary. They've lived in that drama creating world for a long time. So they actually have quite a bit of insight about the darker sides of our nature, and they can be wonderful supports, and they can have tremendous compassion and understanding if they want to. if that's the direction they want to go. And many people who have borderline, that's the direction they do want to go because they're tired of not having relationships. They're tired of nobody loving them. They're tired of their life being in chaos. They're tired of the trauma. They're tired of being overwhelmed. They're tired of creating so much insanity all around them. They're tired of it. And they know that when they're grounded, when they're in a safe space, when they can think, when they don't have to defend and protect at all costs, then they're able to work through these issues. They're able to do it. Living with someone like that might be kind of hard. You might want to help a narcissist with some space, like after you've divorced, if you really care about them, um, if they matter enough, or after you've separated, or after you have your own places to go. I remember a story about Lou Reed and his wife. And Lou Reed was a musician, a very volatile musician. And him and his wife, they lived separately, but they were both really good people. They lived separately so that because they knew what the other person could be like. They knew the other person's mental health. So you make adjustments. Life isn't like a romance novel. You make adjustments for the people that you care about. And some people are too far along, and that's for you to decide. But other people, between the two of you, you might be able to work it out. So, borderline personality disorder can lead to high levels of narcissism, but it doesn't mean that someone's evil, and it doesn't mean that they're broken and destroyed for forever. Many times, if they start to get the things that they need, if they start to get a little bit older, if they start to develop better skills, then they can reverse it. I've had two narcissists in my life, which were good people, and we've been able to raise them up. We've been able to um, help them find a better balance, because you look past the behavior. You look past the behavior to who they are and what's really going on, and you look past your own victimhood. You look past your own pain. You look past your own overwhelm. You honor it. You respect it. You get help for it. You set boundaries around it. You love it, but you recognize that this person too struggles just like you do. And when we come at it from a level of compassion like that, miracles are possible. However, only to, as I said, a certain degree. The other person has to want to not have such a crazy life anymore. And they have to want to have that stability, and they have to want to treat the people around them better. And so that's where tough love comes in. When you hold your boundaries, when you respect yourself, that's when the people around you start to raise up. They start to float up to your level, because we become most like the five people we spend the most time with. And so if one of them is someone who has a high level of expectation of how a relationship should be unfolding and what it should look like, then the other people around them will start to generally raise to that level. So I've had a lot of people with mental health challenges in my life, and many of them have had high narcissistic tendencies, which have had some very difficult effects on me, some very painful side effects. And it caused me and pushed me to work on my own things and to become someone who's really in a really great stable place. And only from that great stable place are you able to help anybody else, including somebody with borderline, or including somebody with full blown narcissism, or someone who's just struggling with ADD and ADHD and they're not quite sure um, how to handle it. It's not easy if you've been raised and you have tendencies towards narcissism. It's a difficult life to live. And some people, you have to let them live their life and send them on their way. But other people, they're people just like everybody else, and they want better for themselves. And if you feel it's worth it, then you can help people become better versions of themselves. They don't have to stay trapped in their own pain and insanity either. So, difference between borderline and narcissism? Well, many borderline have high levels of narcissism. Diagnosable narcissism is when you have a complete lack of empathy for anyone or anything ever. But most people really aren't that bad. They just have high narcissistic tendencies, and and it might be workable, because we are not throwaway people. No one is a throwaway person. We all deserve love and kindness and joy, regardless of what we're struggling with. And if you're not the person who can give it to this narcissist or this borderline, if you're not that person, then they need to find somebody who can. Because we do really all deserve to have the best life that we possibly can. So if you're feeling stuck, if you're healing from narcissism, if you're struggling with narcissism, reach out. We'll get you on a call. We'll look at, how I can help. I've got a wonderful group of women that we're still pulling together at a great price. I do one-on-one coaching. If you're local, we do coaching and body work. It's a really wonderful, wonderful process because you don't have to be stuck here doing this by yourself anymore. It's scary. It's very scary, but it's even scarier when you do it by yourself. So reach out, let me know, and we'll get you moving forward. We'll get you to the healthiest, happiest place that you can be. Okay? I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.